Hello, CC and Middleburg Tutors. This is your tutorial for week 13 science projects. We are back in our Janice Van Cleve Science Experiments book, and for week 13 we are doing experiments number 121, tilt, and 124, splitter. So I know you guys have these books, and I would encourage you to read through the entire lesson plan for each of these prior to class, but this tutorial will give you kind of the basic rundown. For tilt, our purpose is to demonstrate the effect of the Earth's tilt on seasons. And so what we're going to be using is a small little globe that I found at the dollar store, which is much better than the ball of modeling clay that's recommended in our book. You will receive a ball just like this, and it will have a hole going through the top and bottom so that you can insert your own pencil. Your procedures tell you that you need to insert your pencil, and then you need to draw a line around the middle for the equator. So I'm going to make sure that you guys get to do that with your class, to make sure that you get to follow your procedures, because I know we're working through the scientific method and you want to be able to do all those steps with the class together. So you want to make sure that you bring a Sharpie marker with you to class that day. You should have one in your tutor bins, but just make sure that you have one in order to be able to mark that equator line. I also need for you guys to bring in a flashlight that day. I'm sure that everybody has one, but I do not have like 6 of them laying around the house. So just remember that for our first week back next week, you need to bring a flashlight. Preferably any flashlight that you have that shines the brightest. So it doesn't have to be a humongous thing like this one, but this is my brightest one. Some of you might have little bitty ones that still shine really bright. So basically this is just representing our sun, and we need a flashlight for that. So our procedures tell us that what we're going to do is basically set our pencil down, and we're going to rotate it just like the Earth, revolves and rotates. And so we're going to have our flashlight be the sun, and we're going to show the example. The Earth's on a tilt. We're going to show the example. Can we see this? Let me put it up. Okay. We're going to show the example that when the Earth is tilted this direction, the lower half of the equator gets most of the sun. But as the Earth spins and tilts, now the upper half of the equator gets most of the sun. And so we can do this several times in order to demonstrate to the kids, or even have them try to spin it, have somebody be the sun, have other kids try to spin it, in order to really explain why do we have different seasons in different parts of the year. Why is it morning in the United States when it is nighttime in China? Why do places like Alaska have seasons where it's mostly all light and seasons where it's mostly all dark? And so this is going to be a really quick experiment, but it's one of those where you can really talk it up a lot and give some extra information. So this is pretty much everything to tilt. Make sure that you go through the scientific method on this whole thing, to go through what your materials are, what your procedures are, have the kids guess a hypothesis. What's going to happen if I spin it this way? What's going to happen if I spin it this way? Work through that with them, ask some good questions, and then of course make sure that everybody sees what the results are at the end. So this is our first little project, number 121, tilt. Okay, the next one is number 124, and this is called splitter. Now, I do not have this one completely prepared for you guys, actually prepared at all, because this one is involving ice and water. And the idea for this one is that we're going to have 2 bowls. So I am going to provide bowls pretty similar to this. It's supposed to be something that has a really secure lid, but just like a snap-on lid and not a screw-on, so I need to make sure that I can locate some of those. I know I have some. The idea is that we are going to fill one bowl kind of over full with water, and then put the lid securely on it and stick it in the freezer. And we're going to find out what happens when water becomes solid, turns into ice, and that expands. What will happen? Will the lid stay on? Is the water going to expand and harden and turn into ice and pop the lid off? Or will it just turn into ice and stay where it is? And so the way that this experiment is going to work is that you're probably going to want to go to the kitchen for this, because I am likely only going to have one of these prepared with ice, and it will need to stay in the freezer in the kitchen, since it will melt if we bring it to the classrooms, and then it won't be very productive for you guys. So I will make sure that in the kitchen there is one container for you to fill with water, and that's kind of, this experiment will tell you that's kind of where you start, is you fill the first one overflowing with water, put the lid on it, and see what happens with just water, and then go from there. What is your hypothesis? If I do the same thing, and then I let the water freeze, what do you think is going to happen? This is where your kids can really talk through and, come up with their hypothesis of what they think is going to happen. And then that's where you can then go to the freezer, pull out the one that is frozen, and we will see what the results are of that. So that's everything for splitter. Again, there's some more explanation on that in here for you that you can read through ahead of time. I want you guys to just make sure that when you're done with this project, you leave everything out for the next class. So make sure that the ice bowl goes back in the freezer and that the water bowl is empty and setting back on the counter again, so that the next class can come in and use it. Also for science, for this 6 weeks, we did see some new PDF forms of the Why with Miss Wizzle descriptions for you guys, and so I'm going to make sure that I email those to y'all along with these videos, so that you can have those to look at. Again, those are not for class use as far as distributing to your class, but they are definitely a really good resource for you to be able to come up with some more conversation to go in depth with these experiments, because a lot of times they go really quickly, and we want to make sure that we really fill that 30-minute time with some good nuggets of information. So I'm going to make sure that I send those sheets to you guys. You will want to make sure to read through them and do your research. Bring in any other visuals or aids that you might have that you think are helpful to go with these two. But that is everything for week 13 science. Thanks.